She was 23 years old, just starting her life. She was kind, quiet, and dedicated to her job as a mail carrier. But on one warm summer afternoon, Debora Sue Schatz disappeared without a trace. The person responsible, a 17-year-old boy with a dark mind from a wealthy family, hiding something truly sinister behind closed doors. This is a story of innocence stolen, justice challenged, and a mother who refused to stay silent. Welcome to Secrets in the Shadows. Subscribe to uncover haunting truths. And don't forget to like this video, not because you support the crime, but because you support justice. Imagine a young woman with a bright future, loved by everyone she met. That was Debora Sue Schatz. Born on September 16, 1960, in Houston, Texas, she was the kind of person who left a lasting impression with her warm smile and gentle nature. Her family and friends called her May, a nickname that suited her cheerful personality. Growing up in a crowded but loving home on Kempwood Street, May was one of 8 siblings. Her mother, Barbara, stayed at home to care for the children, while her father, Albert, worked hard to provide for the family. Life wasn't always easy, but the Schatz household was filled with laughter and close bonds. May stood out in her family for her kindness and optimism. She had a way of making people feel comfortable, whether they were strangers or lifelong friends. Even as a child, she showed a playful side, signing her school papers as May Presley because of her love for Elvis. Her siblings remember her as the one who could turn an ordinary day into something special, whether it was dancing in the living room or organizing camping trips. She loved spending time with her nieces and nephews, always ready to play or share a story. Those simple moments meant the world to her. Her dreams were just as humble as her personality. All May wanted was a family of her own someday, kids running around the house like she'd grown up with, a life filled with love and noise. She worked hard to build that future. Before landing a job as a postal carrier, she worked at a daycare center and later as a dental assistant. These jobs suited her caring nature, especially her time at the daycare, where she could nurture and protect children. But it was her role as a mail carrier that gave her stability. She took pride in her work, delivering mail in Houston's West Memorial neighborhood. Her co-workers admired her dedication, and residents along her route noticed her friendly demeanor. The job at the post office came with good benefits and a steady income. May was saving up for her dream car, a red Corvette, something she often talked about with excitement. She was careful with her money, planning for the future she imagined. But beneath her cheerful exterior, May was also cautious. She had a rule about never entering strangers' homes while on her route, a safety measure she took seriously. That rule would later make her disappearance even more chilling to those who knew her. On the surface, May's life seemed ordinary. A young woman working hard, surrounded by a big, loving family, looking forward to the years ahead. But on June 7th, 1984, everything changed. The news that May hadn't returned home from work sent a wave of panic through her family. She was always reliable, always where she was supposed to be. Her sudden disappearance didn't make sense. Friends, co-workers, and neighbors were all shocked. How could someone so full of life, so careful, just vanish? Debora Sue Schatz was more than a name in a news headline. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, someone who left a mark on everyone she met. Her family would later describe her as the glue that held them together, the one who kept the laughter alive. And yet, in one brutal act, her light was snuffed out. But what happened on that fateful day in June 1984? June 7th, 1984, began as an ordinary Thursday for May. She arrived at the Westheimer post office that morning, like always, joking with co-workers while sorting mail. After finishing her usual route, she volunteered to cover deliveries for a co-worker in West Memorial. This decision put her on Linwood Hollow, a quiet cul-de-sac in an upscale neighborhood. It was the last place anyone would expect violence to find her. At around 3 p.m., May approached the Port family home to deliver mail. 17-year-old David Port answered the door. What happened next came from his own confession. Without warning, Port pulled out a .22 pistol and forced May inside at gunpoint. He made her go upstairs. When May saw her chance, she tried to run. That's when Port fired twice, hitting her in the head at close range. The shots killed her instantly. Port showed no panic or remorse after the shooting. He tied May's hands together with speaker wire and stuffed her body into a black trash bag. Then he methodically cleaned the scene. He washed blood off his tennis shoes in the sink. He scrubbed the walls where bullet fragments had lodged. In his own words, it was like he was doing some spring cleaning and taking out the trash. Next came the disposal. Port dragged the bag containing May's body to the garage and loaded it into the family station wagon. He drove to a remote area near Addicks Reservoir, about 20 miles from his home. There, he dumped May's body in a creek bed and covered it with brush. The whole time, he acted with eerie calmness, as if this were just another chore. Back at the house, Port went about his evening like nothing had happened. When his parents returned home later that night, they noticed nothing unusual. But the next morning, May's co-workers would report her missing when she didn't show up for work. The hunt for answers was about to begin. But how would investigators connect the quiet mail carrier to the wealthy teen who took her life? May's family grew worried within hours. She never came home. Her supervisor reported her missing. Authorities began searching. Bloodhounds tracked her scent to the Port home. Neighbors confirmed she had been last seen delivering mail there. But what happened next changed everything. David's father, Bernard Port, went to the police himself. Inside his home, he found a bullet hole in the stairwell, a .22 caliber pistol that smelled freshly fired, and a pair of tennis shoes with what appeared to be blood stains. He handed over this evidence and allowed investigators to search the house. Police soon uncovered even more: bloodstains, bullet casings, and clothing fibers that tied Mays to the Port residence. A statewide alert was issued for David Port. 4 days later, officers spotted him speeding through the neighborhood in a maroon Chevy. After a dramatic high-speed chase, he crashed into a parked car and was arrested. He confessed almost immediately, giving chilling details only the killer could have known. David Port's trial got a lot of attention and became more about courtroom drama than about what happened to May. As 17-year-old David sat in court in New Braunfels, people started talking more about money, religion, and fairness than about May's murder. From the start, the prosecutors had a hard time. David's parents, Bernard and Odette, refused to testify against him. They said their religion, Judaism, didn't allow it. This upset many people and made it harder for the prosecutors since they lost 2 important witnesses. The state's strongest evidence was David's own confession. He calmly explained what happened, how he tricked May into coming inside, shot her when she tried to run and threw away her body like it was trash. He showed no emotion, which made his words even more disturbing. The defense tried to keep his confession out of court, but the judge said it could be used. After deliberating, the jury found David Port guilty and gave him a 75-year prison sentence. For May's family, this felt like justice, but there were problems right away. The trial was held in a mostly German town, and some people wondered if David, who was Jewish, was treated unfairly. His parents also refused to help the court, which made things harder. But the biggest blow came later. The legal system had one more painful surprise. Just a few months after the trial, an appeals court overturned David's conviction. That meant May's family had to go through everything all over again. Just when May's family thought justice had been done, the legal system dealt them a heartbreaking blow. In August 1987, a Texas appeals court overturned David Port's conviction. Why? Because of a technical rule. An old state law from 1907 said that an oral confession, like the one Port gave, couldn't be used as evidence. The court said, even though this is frustrating, Texas law says oral statements can't be used against someone in court. Without that confession, the case fell apart. For May's family, it felt like losing her all over again. The decision left the prosecutors in a tough spot. They had depended heavily on Port's confession, where he calmly explained what he did to May. Without it, they only had weaker evidence, like the murder weapon, some bloodstains, and a button from May's uniform found in Port's car. The family was devastated. They had already been through so much. May's father, Albert, and her brother-in-law, Roger Allen, had both died during the court battle. Now, they had to face the possibility that Port might go free. The emotional pain was overwhelming. Prosecutors had two choices: ask the higher courts to review the case, which could take years, or start a new trial without the confession. Neither option was guaranteed to work. For months, May's family waited, not knowing if Port would be punished at all. The legal delays and rules made them wonder if May's life truly mattered to the justice system. But they didn't give up. Even with all the setbacks, they kept fighting, not just for May, but for all victims whose cases might fall apart because of legal technicalities. Their fight wasn't over yet. Would the conviction ever stand? On June 5th, 2014, almost 30 years after he killed May Schatz, David Port was released from prison. He didn't earn parole. He didn't say he was sorry. He was set free because of an old Texas law. That law said inmates sentenced between 1977 and 1987 only had to serve about 1/3 of their sentence. Even though Port got 75 years, he served only 27. The law was made to help with prison overcrowding, but it didn't think about victims like May or families like the Schatzes. May's mother, Barbara, never saw this day. She died just months before Port was released, still heartbroken over losing her daughter. Back in 2011, she had said, "If I saw him, I think I'd kill him myself." The family never got an apology. Port never admitted he was guilty again after his first confession. He wasn't released because he had changed, just because the law said he could go. Even though Port had to wear a GPS monitor and wasn't allowed back into Harris County, May's family felt like justice was denied. Crime victim advocate Andy Kahan said it clearly. No one in the justice system thought releasing David Port was a good idea. This case showed how one law meant to solve one problem. Too many people in prison ended up causing another. The families of victims were the ones left to suffer. For May's loved ones, seeing Port walk free reopened an old wound that never fully healed. Even though May's life ended terribly, people still remember her and the good she brought to others. In January 2001, the post office where she worked was renamed after her. For her family, it meant more than just a name. It was a place that kept her memory alive. Her brothers, sisters, and nieces could visit and think about how much joy she brought into their lives. The ceremony wasn't about her murder. It was about honoring her kindness and the way she touched everyone she knew. Her case showed big problems in the justice system. When David Port was released early, people were angry. It made them question how the law could let someone who hurt others go free so soon. May's mother, Barbara, became a strong voice for change. She spent years trying to make laws better for victims and their families. News stories about the case also raised hard questions about how money and power can affect court decisions. The pain never really went away for May's family. When Port was let out after only 27 years of a 75-year sentence, her brother Albert said it best, "My sister is in the ground, gone forever. He gets another chance, and she doesn't." Victims advocate Andy Kahan also spoke out, saying no one in the justice system truly believed it was right to release David Port. May's story isn't just about what was lost. It's about the push for justice, for remembering victims, making laws fair, and giving families a voice. Her life, though cut short, still inspires people to make a difference. But it also leaves us with a question. What does this case tell us about the justice system? And how can we make sure no other family suffers like the Schatz family did? Debora Sue Schatz didn't deserve to die. Her story is a sad reminder that justice doesn't always last. Even though her killer was sentenced to 75 years, a broken law let him out after only 27. May's family fought hard for justice, but in the end, they were left with more pain and unanswered questions. Their loss shows how victims' voices can be pushed aside by old rules and legal loopholes. If this story touched your heart, help keep May's memory alive. Liking this video doesn't mean you support the crime. It shows you care about victims' rights. Subscribe to Secrets in the Shadows and turn on notifications. We uncover the truths others ignore. Together we can stand up for justice and be a voice for those who can't speak for themselves. Thank you for being here and honoring May's story. Her light may be gone, but her voice still echoes. And through stories like this, we fight to make sure no one is forgotten. I'm Charlotte. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep speaking up for those who no longer can. I'll see you in my next video.